So the motivation of this paper is, first of all, show how important is the copper production in the Chilean economy, how significant is this in the growth of the country, especially in what we export. And then what I want to do is looking it's like a continuation of what I showed last year in which is a continuation in the sense that I want to look at the super cycle of copper price and in the world and how this was affecting the Chilean economy, or how the Chilean economy could take advantage of a process like this. So the first thing is this is the export of the countries. The gray color shows the total export. You can see from 2001 on we grew a lot, and it has the same. The blue one are the mining, and the dark color is the copper export. You can see that the shape of the total export are dominated by what's happened in the mining sector. Okay, and by now we are exporting about 80 billion. Our economy size is about 300 billion, so more than 30% of the total production is exported. Okay, in this sense, Chile is a very open economy, and the main export are mining, represent 55% of the total export, and 49% is just copper. So what happened with copper define a lot what happened with the economy. So in order to see what happened with those prices, we will use this typical IO table. We have sector, final demand, and the value added. Okay, and I want just to highlight this, that normally when we want to look at the impacts of changes in final demand, like exports, okay, what we do is we change final demand and we look through the sector how it impacts in the economy, okay? But changing final demand normally means changing quantity of production, okay? But what's happened in this period, that what is changed is the price. This is the super cycle price. We have a price at about $1, between $1 and $1.5 per pound of copper, and then in 2005, 2006, it jumped and it reached almost $4. So this period here is called a super cycle. Okay, so there is a change in price, and you see the quantities of the production of copper in tons, okay, of pure copper. Then we have an increase of production that go from 1990, which is the new cycle of copper production, and to 2003, it grow very fast, and then during the super cycle, it stayed. Okay, it stayed almost at the same level. Okay, and this is a projection of what will happen in the future. But what's happened here? Why they didn't increase in order to take advantage of this price? The reason was that normally a project in mining might take between 8 to 15 years to get into production. So in 2003, nobody was expecting a super cycle of price. Okay, so this is the reason why they didn't invest much than they already invest, that made this production of copper goes up as it was between 1990 to 2003. The difference between these two colors is that the blue one is concentrate, which is the export here is a powder, it's a gray powder that have about 50% of copper, and the copper color in the cathode, which is 99.99% copper, which is just pure copper. Okay, So we have in this part of the production from 1990 to 2003 an increasing in production in the country, but then when the super cycle price came, they didn't have any space to increase in production. Okay? So the price goes up in this period, and the question is how we can evaluate. Okay? Normally, the traditional way is that we assume that change in final demand are due to change in quantity of production. Okay? But that is the case for the first part. But for the second part, for the super cycle, we don't have much change in quantity of production, but we have a huge change in prices. Okay? So what I want to show is how this can be, the impact can be measured and what are the consequences. Okay, so in the first part we have change in quantity. In the second half, in the super cycle, we don't have change in quantity. And here the price is very stable. Okay, and the second part we have a change in the price. So the traditional way to look at the impact will be good for using in the first part, okay, where there is a change in quantity, but in the second part might be not. So there is this is a traditional way to calculate the impact. We have the change in final demand. In this case, is variation in export. You see that there is a huge change in export, but in the first part, in the decade of the 90s, that variation was due to increasing in the quantity of production of copper. Okay, but in the second part, it's due to change in the price. Okay, so this model, which is the traditional Leontief model, will be good for the variation of production to look at the change in the demand, and this will be the shock, the increase in the export, and see what is happening in the country. Okay, so I showed this graph last year. This is the value added distribution when there is a change in the quantity, shock in demand. Okay, so this is good. We see from the decade that go from 1990 to 2000. Okay, but from 2005 and on, there is a change not in the quantity but in the pricing. And you can see this green part is the share of the value added that go to the workers, while the red part is the share of the value added that go to the owners of the copper companies. Okay? Among them, there is the Chilean state. 30% of this red goes to the Chilean state because the Chilean state has their own company, and the other 70% belong to the private sector. So it's this is the 2005 is the beginning of the super cycle price. Okay, and you see there is a reduction in the share of the labor payment. This is a Y there, and it's and the red part increase. This means that there is an increase in the share of the capital owner. Okay, but it's go from something lower than 30% to something over 20%. So there is a change here, but it's not too much. This increase here is due to 2009 when we have the international crisis. So if we use only the traditional Leontief model, change in export due to change in quantity, there we don't see much difference that the payment go to the labor and the payment go to the capital owner, okay, is fluctuate between something lower than 30% and something above 20%. Okay? And the reason that this happened, and we don't see the impact of this huge increase, is because we are assuming that what is changing is quantity and not price. Okay? So what is proposed is to use a model where we allow for changing in prices. Okay? And this is called the Leontief price model. So, and the impact of the change in price goes by changing in the value added. Okay? So this is what I want to look now. What is happening if we look at the change in the value added. So the change in price will be looking through the value added. Here is some of the idea of the relation between copper price is here. These are cents of dollar per pound, and this is the amount of the sale of the copper. The total, no, not the sale, but the earnings, the total earning of the companies in Chile. Okay, so you can see the blue one are the earning, and the red one are the price. This is the price is the average between two sources or where the copper is sold. One in New York and the other one is in London. So we have, this is the change in price. You see in 2005 the price was about $2 per pound, okay, and by 2007 it's reached almost $4 per pound. Okay, then it's the crisis 2009 that make the price go down, and then it's going up again, and even in 2011 it go in the average year is over $4 per pound. Okay, so if we look the super cycle and compare with the previous year where the price was between 1 and 1.5, so the price was moving in this level. Okay, and the super cycle is 3 times more. Okay, so this is the largest mine in the country, the private mine, and you can download the financial statement for this period. This is 2005, when the price was already $2 per pound. Okay. And this is 2007, which reached almost $4. Okay, so as you can see here is how the earning change. This is earning after tax. Okay, so it goes from 1.8 billion of dollar per year, the earning, to 6 billion per year. If you add up all the investment of this firm from the beginning to 2007, is about 6.2 billion. So in 1 year, this firm get earning after tax almost the same as all the investment that they start in 1984. Okay. This is very good. But what I want to show is how, because the change in price changed from 1.8 to 6.0. Okay, this will be the red part of the graph. Okay, while here are the cost of the production. Okay, and you see inside here is the wages. Okay, and this go from 1 million to 1.4. So it's increasing the cost of about 40%, while the earning increase more than 300%. Okay, that difference is due to change in price. And that difference is not shown when you just change the export or shocks the demand, because the shock in demand is assuming that what is changing is the quantity. So if you change the quantity, the cost normally increase proportional to the quantity, okay? But if what is changing is the price, then what you get is something like this, and then you have to change the model. Okay? So, what I want to end up with a presentation is some policy implication. And the policy implication comes from this area. If you see, this is 1.8 billion. This is earning after tax. And from an investment that is about a little bit above 6 billion. So this is almost 30% per year, okay? Which is a very high rate, okay? Now here is almost 100% per year, which is very extraordinary, okay? So, and these are real numbers, and you can download this number from the web page of the firm, okay? So I want to show you two cases where they face in different manners what is happening during commodities increasing, price increasing. Okay. First is the Chilean case, the case that I just showed you. What are the conditions? They gave an exploitation concession for 99 years. Okay, those are almost free. They have to pay very small fee to get the concession because we assume that most of the benefit will come from taxation and labor creation and so on. So when the firm get all the extraordinary profit of a super price cycle. So if the price goes up, the increasing in earnings will get by the firm. Okay. The country gets some additional tax on the profit, however, the share is not so big. Okay, and you can see in the balance statement that is natural. What they in Ecuador, what they did with another commodity, which is oil. Okay, they made an agreement on an exploitation price with the firm. So they set the price in advance. They don't give concession, but they do something like outsourcing. And they make an agreement with the price. So when the price goes up, the country gets the extraordinary earnings. Okay? And if the price goes under the agreement, then the country has to pay the difference. And when you see what has happened in the series of Ecuador, with this deal, you can see that they get a lot more money for the country than we do. Okay. So it's when a country has to set a policy for exploitation, I think these two things have to be in consideration. That is the conclusion.
Patricio, thank you very much, and please questions, please.
Patricio, tell me please, what is the probability of the next price super cycle? How do you think in near future?
Okay. The owner of the firm do the same question, and they pay a lot for the answer. But it's it's in the copper production. They are very optimistic about another super cycle price after this fight between China and the United States stopped when the global economy started growing up. Due to the increasing demand because those new technology for energy. So mass of the energy, the car, the panels, and use copper intensively. Okay, more so if that technology is increasing use in the countries, then we expect that the demand will increase, so the price. So the optimistic they say that this cycle might be a start in 2002, 2003, 2022, 2023, but it's the change today are so fast that nobody is betting too much on this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
I just have two short questions. One kind of follows up on his. First, what share of the copper mining is foreign owned? And the second is, in terms of the market for Chilean copper, where is it going? I suspect a lot of it to China and Europe, but how does this current trade war affect the outlook for Chilean copper export?
Okay, it's when you look at where they're selling, we have a very diversified buyers. Okay, China maybe is the main one, and but in the past. Oh, but first I have to answer the first question in order to understand this answer. The ownership of the market is 30% belong to the Chilean state. Okay. Now there is one firm that belongs to a Chilean owner, but he has the firm has the legal address in London for some, I don't know, reason, but this is even the owner is Chilean. The main square is in London, and the firm is, and that produces about 7% of the total production of the country. Okay, so 60%, a little bit more, it belongs to foreign firms. Okay. And from those foreign firms, the main one is the one that I showed, the Escondida, which belong to BHP, mainly the Australian company, plus another one, Billiton, is among them. And that company accounts for about 20% of the total production. Okay, and then there is another 10 other big companies that produce the average 6 million of tons per year that we produce. Okay, so it's now when you say about the buyers, China is one of the main buyers, but China came to the country and make a negotiation with the state firm in 2003, and they set the price for the next 5 years. So we almost, the company that belonged to the government almost lost the whole super cycle because this deal with the China. And then the other companies sell to, this is a global market, so it's but when you look where they sell, okay, I think there is some issues about pollution that are affecting the market. For example, there is some copper that has a lot of arsenic, so they have to go to a special treatment in order to take part of the arsenic out. But normally that copper goes to some developing country. It doesn't go to Europe or because they care about pollution and care about this. So depending on how clean in terms of the trace of the pollution of the copper, where it go. Okay, but given that we produce a lot of copper, we produce for different countries, developing country. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Patricio,
Yeah.
I must warn you. The Congo,
Then,
they've got a lot of copper. And you know what? We've worked on the railway line and on the roads now to take that copper out. How's your views on, you think you will still be the major exporter of copper?
I didn't understand the question.
Now, all I'm saying is that the Congo,
Congo, okay?
they put a lot of money into additional production of copper,
Okay.
and also the road, the railroad and the normal road to get the copper out.
Okay.
A lot of money is now put into that to get the copper out. So my question to you is, how do you see this, what will happen with the production in the future?
I think this is what's happening. If you look at the copper market across time, there are several interesting characteristics. First, we have something that we call reserve. Okay, and when you look at the reserve, it look like this. It's like a teeth. Okay, so the reserve starts going down and gives some threshold, and then the firm start explorating, and they find more copper, and then it goes up, and then it goes down again. Okay, this is one question. So normally we are, as a world, we are finding more copper around the world, and we have been exploiting copper for 100 years. And we have a neighbor, Peru, which started about 10 years ago, and they have huge mine also, okay? But they don't have the technology or the experience, so we are, part of our business now is selling them services of exploitation, okay? And I think part of the income of copper, or the associated copper industry, is coming from this sale of services. Okay, and technologies. Okay, no hard technology, no hardware, but soft technology, services, engineering. And so we have a lot of development in this area. And the other thing is we have been in the process of learn how to get copper from every time for a more low of ore, you know, the percentage of copper in the mineral. Okay, so when we start 100 years ago, it was about above 4%. So for 100 ton that you treat, you get 4 ton of copper. Now the low of ore is lower than 1%. Okay, so you need to treat more mineral in order to get the same quantity of copper. Okay, but we are doing this every time cheaper. Okay, for example, energy. Energy represents about between 5 to 10% of the cost. Okay, the total cost, which is a very high cost. And now what we are using is solar energy. Okay, because the most of the mining company are in the desert, which has sun the whole year round. So it's the increasing in the solar energy is in that part of the country is really big. Okay, I don't know if you have seen a presentation by Al Gore, and he point Chile as his country where the change of solar production has been very, very large. But if you look at within the country, this change has occurred just in that part of the country, okay, and goes to they change use of oil and coal by solar power. Okay, so it's I think this is what the market is going for. Chile is going. Okay, we will sell increasingly more technology, soft technology, than just pure copper.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask a question? So, in Russia, we accumulated part of oil revenues in special fund, which name is National Welfare Fund. And I read somewhere that Chile has something like that. So please tell us about fund which Chile has or maybe had before, where you accumulated revenues from copper.
Yeah. This is in 2004. There was an economist that now is the president of the central bank that proposed to make saving, because what's happened in the previous 2 decades, we faced in 1973 a double crisis, political crisis and the oil crisis together in the country. So the GDP growth goes down by 14%, and this was 1974, and in 1982 we have the debt crisis in Latin America, and Chile was very in debt. So the product went down for 12%. Okay. So these economists say, why we don't save money in order to reduce those the high and the down of the cycles. So it's passed a law that this law say that from the national budget we have to save 1% per year. Okay, so it was a structural saving that the government can spend the saving just when the economy has been 2 terms of 3 months each, 2 terms under the trend of growth, okay, which is about 3% per year. So if the country is growing lower than 3% for 2 terms in a row, then they can use part of this money, and they can use a bigger part as the lower is the growth. So since then we have just 1 year in 2009 where the country grows less than 0. Okay, it was minus 1% in 2009. Okay, and it was due to the subprime. And we accumulate a lot of money during this super cycle. Okay, so the government that faced those international crises, they had using the savings. So we used to have a lot. We still have savings from the copper fund in order to use when the growth is lower than the trend, the expected trend.
Is this fund that exists right now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it's normally it's saving in some very low risk assets. I don't know, the bond of the U.S. Treasury, which is, I don't know how low it is right now.
This is a question.